Thank you. The Augustana graduating class of 2013, honored parents, members of the Augustana community, Augie Vikings one, all, and everywhere. Today is a day for celebration. Today is a moment of achievement and accomplishment, a conclusion to your academic career at Augustana, an acknowledgement of the power and worth of your education, a goodbye to friends, and the undertaking of a new aspect of your life. The whole Augustana community is pleased to share this special day with you. We were happy when 4 years ago you arrived on this campus, excited or expectant, uneasy or hopeful. And we are even happier for you today. For we trust that you leave this place wiser, more confident, and more aware of the world, more knowledgeable about both its promise and its challenges. At Augustana, you have been students. You are also athletes and musicians, volunteers and mentors. I would guess that most of you all are children of a proud parent or parents. Some of you are siblings, and a few of you are spouses. The future will bestow upon you even more roles and complexities. You are about to inhabit a world of challenge and change, a world characterized by unanticipated opportunities, as well as by defining and enduring obligations. There, your identity will be shaped and informed by your profession, by your spouse, by your religion and religious institutions, and by your children. Nor does this even begin to summarize the numerous ways you will relate to your world. Among other things, you are and will continue to be free men and women. You are citizens who've inherited a legacy of liberty. For that reason, you are blessed. Yours is a birthright of freedom. Your inheritance bestows riches too often taken for granted. Nonetheless, yours is a birthright that requires renewal if it is to endure. That will be your responsibility. The sound of a distant trumpet beckons, calling each of you to think and act as free citizens. What does it mean to be a free man or woman? I like best the ancient understanding. It was based upon the assumption that the antonym of freedom is slavery. A free person recognizes that many goods, but is enslaved to none of them. Not to physical pleasures, not to money-making, not to success. A free person is freed from excessive desires and therefore is free and able to live a life of good actions and good thought, to act independently and self-reliantly. At the same time, a free person recognizes that such a life can only take place in the context of a larger community, and therefore understands the need to contribute to that community. But how is such a contribution to be made? In other words, what does meaningful free citizenship require in the 21st century? This is an important question to ask at a time when our politics seem so contentious and off-putting. Here are 8 modest suggestions about what the citizenship of a free people requires today. First, freedom means something more than merely doing what one wants. The greater good is more than mere self-expression for its own sake. According to the ancient understanding, a free person lives voluntarily, responsibly, and reflectively. In our day, free persons live under a government that recognizes that individuals have rights. We are reminded of that all the time. We are reminded less often that such rights become most valuable when they are exercised thoughtfully and responsibly, when they advance not merely our own narrow or trivial self-interest, but our nation's justice and well-being as well. Second, a free person recognizes that human beings are not atoms existing in isolation from each other. Rather, we live in common, in community, with others. Thus, free men and women live beyond themselves and recognize this bond by helping others. They know that a person's well-being and happiness radically depends on the well-being of their loved ones, their family, and their community. Many of you in the class of 2013 have experienced such a commitment firsthand. Friends and loved ones have made a key difference in your lives. You have had parents who planned, encouraged, and even sacrificed so that you might become educated and attend this college. In this way and in so many others, their efforts mattered. You too, in the future, will likely act similarly. Perhaps you've been told you can change the world. Likely that won't happen. But you can change, profoundly change, the life and well-being of a loved one, a friend, your neighborhood, or your community. And that matters a lot. Third, a free person who engages in community and political life acts on the basis of knowledge. It is insufficient to merely intend to do the good. Rather, facts matter. The relationship between public policy and human behavior matters. Sadly, this is cause for concern. I was first concerned when I read that Jon Stewart's Daily Show was the principal source of information for young voters. But this source of knowledge apparently is passé. A more recent study of younger voters shows that 30% of them rely principally on Twitter or Facebook for their political information. Not good at all. Enough said. 4, although knowledge matters, a thoughtful, free citizen recognizes that while knowledge is crucial, we actually know less than we think. This is because what we take for knowledge is constantly changing. I think of what my generation thought they knew when they were in college. We then feared Arctic winter. Now we worry about global warming, or perhaps it is climate change. We were concerned about overpopulation. Now we are told that underpopulation threatens the stability of most Western countries. We were told that those who suffered heart attacks should have a series of extended bed rest and avoid exercise at all costs. Many of my generation's parents patiently explained to us that pregnant women were too fragile to work late in their pregnancies. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the standard reference of psychological therapists, then listed homosexuality as a mental disorder. And, according to almost all baseball experts at the time, observation and scouting was all that mattered. Sophisticated statistics, think Moneyball, was unheard of as a good way to evaluate baseball talent. It is remarkable what we as human beings either don't know or will believe. I once saw a television show why talking to plants mattered to the plants. I know my plants have leaves, I just cannot bring myself to believe that they also have feelings. 5, it is liberal education that encourages us to think critically. By so doing, liberal education frees us. It frees men and women from superstition and lazy complacency. It encourages us to respect learning while simultaneously making us skeptical of dogma. This is why liberally educated citizens have become our most thoughtful public servants. Liberal education does not always mean formally educated. Abraham Lincoln and Harry Truman were two outstanding American presidents who are both self-educated and well-educated. But for most of us, formal study does matter. And if there's one goal of liberal education, the kind of education that we stress here at Augustana, it is that we believe both that knowledge matters and that the incessant questioning of knowledge and received opinion also matters. It is this attitude toward knowledge that is at the core of liberal education, a liberal education that constitutes a proper education for freedom. 6, the free citizen thinks for himself or herself. Abraham Lincoln is the clearest example of such a citizen leader. On July 1st, 1854, he reflected in writing on a problem. Some people defended slavery, others condemned it. Who was to say? How was a person to know what and who was right? Lincoln was no relativist. He thought then, and would argue 4 years later in his famous debate with Stephen Douglas, that slavery was too important morally to be left to public opinion. But how was one to know such a thing? Every slave, reasoned Lincoln, knew slavery was wrong. Furthermore, he wrote, quote, Although volume upon volume is written to prove slavery a very good thing, we never hear of the man who wishes to take the good of it by being a slave himself. Lincoln thought deeply about equality and slavery. His clarity of mind and therefore his wisdom constituted much of his greatness. He was able to reason and therefore to know that slavery was wrong in principle. 7, the free man and woman understands that politics is not merely a clash of interests, but is also a dispute about ideas, particularly ideas about justice. As Alexander Hamilton reminded us in one of the two great debates in American political history, the debate over the Constitution, there are good people as well as ambitious and unscrupulous people on both sides of vexing political questions. This leads us to recognize that political disagreement can be valuable and people with whom we disagree with can be honorable. Such recognition requires a politics of moderation rather than a much more dangerous politics of fanaticism. In such a setting, free men and women who are concerned with preserving their freedom ought to concentrate their attention upon what ideas are valuable and what policies are in the public interest, avoiding the politics of personal attack and vilification. 8th, last point. Finally, free citizens are aware both of how little and how much of life's goodness depends upon their own efforts. Much of our lives appear to be a matter of simple luck or fortune. In fact, our very birth, not to mention its time and place, are not ours to determine. That we have a wonderful family or loving parents is a blessing, not a necessity. Consider our country, the United States of America. It endures today because of the efforts and sacrifices of people we do not know and could not have known. Nor did most of us consciously choose to become its citizens. And even though it is often correctly said that our country may not have always lived up to its lofty ideals, it has always seemed to me that being a citizen of this country is something of an undeserved blessing. In her younger years, my mother was a seamstress in a small sleeping bag and down jacket company in Seattle, Washington. My father worked for that same firm as a purchasing agent, buying feathers and down that would later be sewn into the sleeping bags and jackets. Both had come to the United States from a Europe under duress. Each had come from a country that did not regard their lives as particularly valuable or worthwhile. And both were fortunate. Each was able to begin life anew in this country. By the way, perhaps you heard of this small, inconsequential sleeping bag company that employed my parents. It was called Eddie Bauer and Company. That it subsequently became so large and successful perhaps says something important about our country as well, but that is a bit beside the point. What I wanted to stress here is the extent to which we, as free people, live lives for which we are grateful, but which, nonetheless, result from some combination of random circumstances and hard work, blind luck and concerted efforts. In some sense, the quality of our lives depends profoundly on our efforts. In another respect, the quality of our lives does not depend upon very much at all. A very wise man, a professor of English named Joseph Epstein, resolved this puzzling matter rather sagely when he observed, "We do not choose to be born. We do not choose our parents. We do not choose our historical epoch or the country of our birth or the immediate circumstances of our upbringing. We do not, most of us, choose to die, nor do we choose the time and conditions of our death. But within all this realm of choicelessness, we do choose how we shall live, courageously or in cowardice, honorably or dishonorably, with purpose or adrift. We decide what is important and what is trivial in life. We decide what makes us significant is either what we do or what we refuse to do. But no matter how indifferent the universe is to our choices and our decisions, these choices and decisions are ours to make. We decide, we choose, and as we decide and choose, so our lives are formed. As you continue to form your lives, here is my charge to you this afternoon. Go forth into the world in gratitude as free men and women. Go forth in joy and with hope. You have been bequeathed an important legacy of liberty, a birthright of freedom. Use it wisely. Use it well. And congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to the graduating class of 2013.